Hey beautiful people, welcome back to the farm. Today's video is going to be another garden tour, and I'm so excited to share with you some of the many changes that have been happening here on the farm. One of the first changes that we have done in the garden is we have implemented new trellises and a new bed. But before we get to that, let me show you some of the progress that we've made in the garden. So the roses are still hanging in there. They're still looking so lovely. We got a new long shoot here and they're looking really good. We definitely got to get that archway set up soon. Now over here, the cilantro has started to go to seed. Those little white flowers there means it's starting to flower and it wants to go to seed. So I'm actually letting it now, and I'm going to let it completely seed up. Then I'm going to collect the seeds that are then called coriander. Got some zinnias here. I should definitely thin these out, but I'm not sure if I'm going to. This sunflower is looking really good. There's some ants on it because there is some aphids. Yeah. When you have a garden, there's going to be bugs, but that's okay. We have zinnias here. They haven't really opened up yet, and something was chomping at this one. So we'll see how the rest of them open up. Chives are looking good. The calendula is looking great. I keep picking these flowers for soaps that I'll probably make during the winter time, because I know I'm definitely going to miss this garden. More zinnias. The rosemary is looking good. So is the dill. It's all looking really good. Now here's where we've made some big changes. The lettuce has now been harvested and I've replaced it with this TP. I still have to do some twine around these branches all the way up, and then peas are sewed along the bottom. So over here we have some broccolini. It's like sprouting broccoli almost, so I've cut the main stalk here, and then you can see there is some sprouts coming up, which looks good. There was some pest damage on these, and it seems that it recovered really well. Same thing with this one. Now you can still see the evidence of the pest damage, but I don't put any pesticides or actually nothing on my plants, so this has pretty much dealt with itself. So here we got a lovely cabbage, and as you can see, it's already starting to head up and it's looking really good. So keeping my fingers crossed for that one, because we definitely love cabbage. Now here in Canada, you can definitely count on having brassicas through your summer season, although it does get pretty hot during the day, and I mean that's hot for us, which is like 30 plus degrees Celsius, so that's much hotter in Fahrenheit. The brassicas still do fairly well, and it drops really cool down in the evenings and overnight. So I've had absolutely no issues so far with growing broccoli, cabbage, and some of your brassicas that you would typically grow in a fall or winter or early spring garden. This is another variety of calendulas, looking really nice. Petals are so soft. And the beans have really taken off. I'm really excited for these. If you look super close, right there is our first little beans growing. So the flowers start. Then after the flower is done being pollinated, Then flower petals fall off, and in replace is this little bean. So yeah, this is gonna look really, really good. These are definitely starting to grow up this trellis now, and they kind of just wrap themselves around this pole. Sometimes I have to readjust them, but here on the other side, they're much taller. Some are doing better than others, and that's okay. So over here, it's looking pretty good, but definitely needs to be filled in. We're gonna put in some more bush beans, peas, and leafy greens in here. We have some extra squash plants that I had, and they're just starting to flower. I believe this is an 8-ball, just because of the roundness of that one. Again, more broccoli. So we actually eat flower buds. That's what broccoli tops are. If you don't watch your broccoli really carefully, it can quickly bolt, especially in the warmer weather. So you definitely want to cut it, even if it is smaller, because once it flowers, like, you're probably not going to want to eat it as much. I definitely make sure that I cut the broccoli heads before that they start to flower and bolt. So the tomato bed is looking really good. Really happy with how it's turned out. The snakes are gone for now, but these San Marzanos are looking really good. So now they're starting to really flower and put on some fruit. The sun gold cherry tomato plant is like one of my best by far. I've kept it really well pruned, and it's just putting lots of large sets of fruit everywhere. And then there's another one back there as well. I've also interplanted some basil and some marigolds. Some of the marigolds have really taken off. Like this one, it's a lot bigger. This dark purple opal basil is really looking nice. I like it. And it's starting to put on some beautiful big slicers as well. This one's a Paul Robeson, and it's put on so many fruit on just this like one cluster. It's kind of insane. And then this is a mortgage lifter. That's one of my bigger tomatoes back there. And then these guys should all be a good size as well. Then this cute little plant, spoon tomato. So it's put on nice sets of fruit here, which look really good. And it spills out over the bed here with more little spoon tomatoes. Now some of the tomatoes that are like the Paul Robeson tomato, those little ones will get a lot bigger. But these little spoon tomatoes that are literally teeny tiny shouldn't get too much more bigger. So I just harvested a whole bunch of this chamomile, but it's already starting to put on a lot more flowers and these tiny little buds as well. So I'm really excited. Really, really love chamomile tea. So I've been drying them inside on a herb rack for the winter time. Here we have my sunflowers down the back side of the tomatoes here. They're doing good so far. We are starting to get nice little heads. They're coming slowly but surely. Here in these little grooves, I've actually sowed some carrots to try to use up the space here that's empty. Holy smokes, is that ever a big tomato? It's a nice one. I've planted a variety of sunflowers from yellow to orange to like a maroon color, so they'll look really good. So next over here I have the cucumber bed, and I just have this large trellis that has this twine running down that I've been wrapping around the stem of the cucumber plants. Now The idea is that the cucumbers will climb up this twine all the way up and create shade for, and will create shade for the lettuce that I have interplanted with it. They've put on some really good flowers. And some of them were actually putting on fruit as well. Yeah, just right there. So hopefully we'll have some cucumbers and some pickles really soon. But yeah, everything's growing really good. Over here we have some runner beans that are just climbing up the trellis here. One's almost at the top there, which is awesome. And then the rest are about halfway. And then the sunflowers here, they're planted later. These beautiful zucchini, they have been a little stressed with the temperature drop. But it's about to warm back up, so we're all good. Then we have new fruit for this one. I didn't mean to do that, but it's looking pretty good. More broccoli sprouts. There's a mini cabbage head. I don't know if this is gonna recover. Kind of just seeing what happens, because this really got knocked back and it only had like 3 leaves on it. Something got to it, and if something's gonna get it, then I'd rather eat this one than that one. It can eat that one if it wants, but let's hopefully just say that it doesn't touch this one. But this one's really starting to put on a head, which is looking good. The squash is setting some fruit. It's looking beautiful. This is kind of like my ugly tomato bed, because a lot of this stuff really does need to be like tied up. Like that needs to be come up. But yeah, it's a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. It's looking good. It's still setting some fruit. I've popped off a couple of these tomatoes that had like already some blemishes on them. Look at this purpling on the tomatoes. It looks so good. And that's just the variety. It's supposed to look like that. And there's like more Romas and sauce tomatoes on this side. You can really see the difference. Like, that's a good size. And it will get bigger, and so will the rest of them that are on here as well. Hello, little bumblebee. Happy to see that they're all over the garden as well. But yeah, trying to stay on top of these weeds is a pain, honestly. I'm ready to give up with the weeds. The beautiful runner beans that we sowed back in May are doing really well. And then this is my zucchini bed slash squash bed. And just down the center here, like yesterday, I've made this like little trench, and I've sowed some carrot seeds. They haven't germinated yet, but yeah, we'll see those soon. These plants have been putting on lots of fruit. There's more fruit on this one, and actually yesterday I was unsure if this one had gotten pollinated or not, and it looks like it might have, because it's starting to get fatter. And usually when squash doesn't get pollinated properly, then what happens is that it just kind of like shrivels up and just dies. Usually just pop them, like pull them off the plant before that happens, because I'd rather the plant put more energy into a better proper fruit than one that's dying. Keeping my fingers crossed for that one. But I did hand pollinate this one, so I know for sure it got hand pollinated. And this one I haven't yet, so maybe I can show you how I do that. So first I find the male flower, and you can tell this is a male flower because it just has a stem connected to a flower, whereas this one's a female flower and it's connected to a fruit. So I'm gonna take this flower and actually just pop it off the plant like this. And then I'm gonna pull all the petals off this. So once you pull all the petals off of it, she'll look like this. And then you're just gonna kind of stick it inside the female flower and rub it around, because right in there, that's the female flower bits. You're gonna rub it against the male flower, and then the fruit will be pollinated properly. So I like to do this for a couple seconds just to make sure that I've done it completely. Now, typically that's the bees' job. They pollinate the flowers, they pollinate the fruit, but just in case, instead of losing a fruit, I'd rather hand pollinate them. In most cases, it's a 50-50 shot that it's been pollinated by a bee, depending on how many bees are in your garden at all times. Because we just moved here, not all the bees know that we're here. So, in other words, I have to hand pollinate to ensure that I'm going to get fruit. This is a great example of one that I didn't hand pollinate, and it actually got pollinated by a bee or some sort of pollinator. It's a weed. But yeah, everything's looking great. Now, here's kind of like my hangout area. It's a little bit of a mess right now, but I have some of my seeds, gardening journal, and it's just really lovely, honestly. Over here is kind of like a hit and miss, honestly. So the lima beans are actually doing really well. They're climbing up the trellis here, and the corn is doing really good. I have some carrots that we sowed, and they've come up. I'll thin them up once they start really kind of growing a little bit more. So I'll thin them out so that they're not all kind of bunched together. And there's some zinnias on the end here. But over here, I have something that like kind of completely destroyed the kale, and the spinach is bolting. So I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna rip this out and put something else here. Over here, we have some more beans. They're so far the slowest. They're just starting to put off little runners that they will climb the trellis, but that's okay. We've put in these rutabagas, and they got hit pretty hard with the same thing that kale did. But I'm really hoping that they pull back, because I don't have much time left to grow rutabagas from seed again. So, keeping our fingers crossed. And then we have some carrots in here, and they're looking good. Now, the new addition being this bed. I filled it and then built this beautiful trellis. It's more like a net with some twine, and then the peas will climb up the twine. Here we have some bush peas, and then I have some empty space here that I still need to fill up. And then zinnias along the end here. Chickens are out playing. They got a big space to play in today. But the strawberry is looking really good. These leaves are like huge. They're bigger than my hand. This little broccoli plant is getting also eaten by something. I'm not really gonna do anything about it. I'm just gonna let it be. These strawberry plants have put off runners, which I've put the runners, I've snipped them off. I've snipped off the runners, rooted them, and then put them in the pockets. So hopefully we'll have like a full green stalk of strawberries next year. And then this one I'll probably snip more of these runners off, and once they produce a little bit bigger, and root them and put them in. So the peppers are kind of looking the same, kind of putting on some more leaves here and there. Trying to put on some fruit, which I'm just kind of pulling off. I really want them to focus on their growth at this point because they're just not looking all too hot, and I'm wondering if it's the soil. I know that it's not too hot in here for them. They like the heat. We had a really cool spring, so I'm just wondering if maybe they got hit with a cool snap and then they got kind of stunted. Time will only tell. There's nothing I can really do about it now, but we'll just have to wait and see. So over here at the in-ground garden, potatoes are looking pretty good. There is some bacteria and disease on them, but that's okay. They are flowering, which looks good. So let's hope that we get some good potatoes. The melons look really good. They're starting to put on more leaves. They look way better than my winter squash, honestly. But these types of plants do take their time. Onions are pretty weedy, but honestly, they're starting to look pretty good. They're bulbing up. They're making some progress. I keep saying I'm going to come in here and weed, and I definitely need to do that. The tomatoes are flowering. They started to put on some fruit, which looks really good. So this one is a cat face blossom, and it's also pretty badly blemished. So honestly, I'm gonna pop this off. This never really would have been a really good tomato to eat because it's already starting to have bugs and rotten spots in it. It's really no good, honestly. So, but something like that is one single blossom, whereas that one is more of a cat face blossom. But we do have some fruit. This is more of an experimental crop out here that I'm just kind of not touching, not doing much to. So we'll see how it goes. The brassicas that have been here for like forever look really, really good under this net. They don't have any pest damage, which is the purpose of the net. But yeah, the broccolis and Brussels sprouts look good. Over here, this corn patch is looking much better. The plants are a lot bigger. I filled in little spots with new plants. I've sowed some new seeds about a week ago, so hoping to get some really good corn. Over here we got the sunflower patch, so hopefully that will do really good. I actually also mixed in some zinnias as well. Over here in the winter squash patch, not much has changed. Maybe it has compared to the last garden tour. This squash has definitely changed. But I've put on some fertilizer on these guys at this point. Organic, of course, but hoping they bounce back pretty well, and they do pretty good. Some of them have flowers on them. We still have some time, but I definitely don't have time to start over. But we'll see. If I can get a couple, I'd be happy with that. I think next year just got to start a little bit earlier with these guys. But they are getting some stress from the sun as well. Not much has changed over here again, this is mostly just perennials because it's a perennial garden. The rose is still blooming. Asparagus is growing. Lemon balm's doing pretty good. Some of the herbs, trying my best not to let them get taken over by all these weeds, but I just picked a lot of this mint to dry for some tea, which is going to be really good. These little plants are trying their very hardest to put on little fruit, but yeah, they're still doing really well. And the berry bushes are still doing really good as well. Let's go see if we have any ripe raspberries. I see a couple. And she just started here last night too, and I picked a few. Just under there. So see how dull that is compared to the shiny red? Like it's not even red. We want the shiny red ones. That one's overripe. Still gonna be good though. And it's shooting off little babies, which is awesome. See, that one's not ripe as well. Gotta wait. But it's putting on some more babies, so I'm very happy about that. These other ones are gonna take a little while to establish. And something's hitting this one pretty bad. You can definitely tell. All right, so I'm gonna go enjoy these sweet little garden snacks. Head inside because it looks like some rain's coming. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.